The story opens in France, during the height of World War II. After a fierce battle, Nazi forces breach part of Paris, spreading fear among its residents. A German soldier warns civilians that anyone sheltering rebels will face severe consequences. Before the situation escalates, a high-ranking general orders his men to regroup, sensing that enemy forces are too close. The colonel, however, insists they must make an example of the French. Just as he is about to carry out his threat, a woman steps forward from the crowd, claiming they know nothing about the resistance. Her intervention sparks a tense exchange between the general and the colonel, but their argument is abruptly cut short when the enemy strikes. Surprisingly, the enemy turns out to be just one man, an American soldier who fights with the force of an entire battalion. The colonel addresses him as Ryder, revealing this is not their first encounter. Amid the chaos, Ryder infiltrates the Nazi camp, but a sudden gunshot drops him. The scene shifts. It seems the battle was only a dream, though it felt too vivid to be forgotten. Waking in an unfamiliar place, the man searches his surroundings and finds a bag containing curious items, a wallet with no identification, a pistol engraved with strange markings, and a set of keys that seem to hold their own mystery. Seeking answers, he approaches the receptionist of a nearby motel, who informs him that he is registered under the name Ryder, the same name the colonel had used in his dream. Outside, he finds a powerful motorcycle, apparently his own, but with a history he cannot recall. As Ryder roams through an unfamiliar city, the narrative shifts to the headquarters of the Sanborn Group, led by the aging tycoon Mr. Sanborn and his loyal assistant, Jack. Strangely, both men also appeared in Ryder's dream, Sanborn as the general, and Jack as the German soldier interrogating civilians. Soon after, they are approached by a man named Sauch, known in the dream as the ruthless Colonel Sauch. In reality, he is a celebrated architect, expressing interest in Sanborn's grand redevelopment project to completely transform the city, a venture Sanborn considers his life's work. Sanborn has recently begun to doubt his redevelopment plan, realizing it would devastate the city's poorest neighborhoods. Sauch, however, works to erase those doubts, insisting that a place in history must be earned, and that such achievements require sacrifices along the way. Meanwhile, Ryder crosses a street that sparks a vivid memory, a young girl being kidnapped by a gang. The vision fades, and he steps into a small restaurant for breakfast, where he meets a familiar face, Morgan, the Frenchwoman from his dream. She works alongside her grandmother, Shell, a warm and kind woman who treats Ryder kindly. Their calm day is interrupted when Jack and his men arrive to collect rent on behalf of Sanborn. Ryder watches them closely, his attention fixed on Jack, who chooses to leave without further confrontation. Afterward, Ryder discreetly asks Shell if she's heard about any recent child abductions, but she knows nothing. Without another word, he mounts his motorcycle and rides off, lost in thought. His mind shifts again, this time not to the battlefields of World War II but to the grandeur of ancient Rome. In this vision, Sanborn appears as a powerful senator, manipulated by Sauch to order the execution of Morgan and her daughter. Before the sentence can be carried out, a gladiator, Ryder himself, steps in to protect them. The vision shatters as Jack and his men suddenly confront Ryder in the present, questioning his identity. Ryder, ready to ask the same, finds himself in a fight until Detective Timmons intervenes, breaking up the gang. Although wary of Ryder, Timmons accepts the word of Shell and Morgan, who vouch for him and even offer him a place to stay. Morgan explains that Jack works for Sanborn, who was recently profiled in People magazine under the title The Man with a Vision. To her, that so-called vision is nothing more than a scheme to squeeze money from the community, forcing locals to pay up at every opportunity. As Ryder studies Sanborn's face in a photograph, another vision strikes, returning him to ancient Rome, where he battles a group of gladiators to protect Morgan and her daughter. His unmatched skill turns the tide, earning him their gratitude. In ancient Rome, the crowd calls for mercy for the accused, and Senator Sanborn reluctantly agrees. But Sauch, eager to keep the spectacle alive, persuades him to send his finest warrior into the arena. This leads to a brutal duel between Ryder and Jack's men. In the present, Ryder notices Sauch leaving Sanborn's building and realizes he, too, appears in his strange recurring visions. Later, back at the restaurant, Ryder learns that Morgan is a trained attorney, though financial struggles have kept her from practicing. Their conversation is interrupted when Morgan receives a message from Roger Hammond, the city's most influential councilman. Curious, Ryder asks Shell about him. She explains that Morgan works on Hammond's legal team, fighting to block Sanborn's controversial redevelopment plans. Once Shell returns to her duties, Ryder's attention is caught by a newspaper ad about a missing girl. The details trigger another flash of memory, a sinister plot by Anbor and his accomplices. Since Hammond's record is spotless and immune to blackmail, they devise a crueler strategy, to break him by taking the one thing he loves most, his daughter. That night, Ryder receives a cryptic phone call from Sauch, who somehow knows about his strange dreams. Offering no explanation, Sauch simply warns that they have a game to play. Suddenly, Ryder is pulled into another vision, This time to 15th century England, inside a bustling tavern. There, the feudal Lord Sanborn, guided by his advisor Souch, demands more taxes from a destitute Morgan, who has already given him everything she owns. The tense negotiation is interrupted when an elderly woman appears, urging Sanborn to do what is right before it's too late. Caught between her plea and Souch's counsel, Sanborn hesitates. Back in the present, Ryder visits Detective Timmins with the missing girl notice. Timmins explains that the case has already been closed, the girl had simply stayed overnight at a friend's house and forgotten to call her mother. As they talk, Ryder's gaze drifts to a bulletin board covered with photos and clippings about Sanborn. Timmins warns him that digging into Sanborn's affairs is dangerous, which is why he has been investigating in secret, without help from outsiders like Ryder. Setting aside his image as a respected architect, Souch reintroduces himself to Ryder as a motivational speaker. In that instant, Ryder sees him differently, not just as the suave architect, but as the Nazi colonel, the Roman senator's confidant, and the feudal lord's advisor. No matter the time or place, Souch is always there, whispering in Sanborn's ear, steering his decisions. With that chilling realization, Souch departs casually, as if the revelation meant nothing. When Ryder picks up Souch's business card, his mind is pulled back to medieval England, where he once again faces Jack and his men in defense of Morgan. Each clash feels more intense than the last, until Shell's voice pulls him back to reality, noting that he had been lost in thought. The next day, Jack, under Souch's orders, calls Ryder with a job offer from the Sanborn Group. News of this infuriates Sanborn, who's tired of Souch meddling in his affairs. In response, Souch instructs him to watch the news, where Councilman Hammond vows to protect the city from Sanborn's destructive plans. Enraged, Sanborn lashes out at the scale model of his project and authorizes his associates to take whatever measures are necessary. Later, Ryder meets Jack to discuss the supposed job, only to learn the task is to intercept Hammond's car. Playing along, Ryder agrees. On his way home, he slips once more into the battlefield of World War II, returning to the story's opening scene. This time, General Sanborn orders his troops to retreat, but when Colonel Souch calls him a coward, the general, in a moment of rage, shells a civilian family. The horror of his own actions leaves him shaken. Somewhere between dream and reality, Ryder encounters Souch again. Souch insists that sometimes evil must prevail so that good can survive, urging Ryder to stop resisting and simply follow the current. Before Ryder can respond, Souch vanishes, leaving him back in the restaurant. This time, it's Morgan who greets him instead of Shell. She's covering her grandmother's poker night shift, much to Ryder's quiet delight. Their moment is interrupted by Detective Timmins, who informs Ryder that after running a full search, there's no record of him anywhere, no identification, no past. To Timmins, Ryder is nothing more than a ghost. Ryder brushes off the subject, preferring to focus on Morgan. In a private moment, she notices the map of scars across his body. Though Morgan enjoys Ryder's company, she can't shake her curiosity about his mysterious past. The next day, when Ryder visits Shell, she reveals something he hadn't noticed before. When spelled backward, Souch's name translates to chaos in English. Meanwhile, Sanborn finds a letter on his desk, written in an old-fashioned hand. It contains a single line: "It's never too late to do what is right." The words match exactly what the elderly woman in Ryder's visions once told him, a woman who, he now realizes, was Shell. With that phrase echoing in his mind, Sanborn finally sees the truth about what he has done, or is about to do. He orders Jack to abandon their plan, refusing to take part in the kidnapping of an innocent child. But his command falls on deaf ears. His men have only ever answered to chaos. That afternoon, young Annie leaves school under the watch of her father's security team. Their van is soon pursued by two cars and forced into a desolate area, where Souch and his men, Ryder among them, are waiting. In a desperate move, Sanborn arrives to stop what's coming, but the inevitable unfolds. Jack opens fire, gunning down Sanborn and his escorts. In the chaos, Ryder fights back, shooting Jack and giving Annie a chance to escape. As Jack lies dying, he recognizes the pattern. They have fought countless times before, from ancient Rome to World War II, locked in an endless duel that always ends with Ryder as the victor. Now, Ryder turns his attention to Souch. Out of ammunition, Souch still manages to deliver one last, unexpected twist for the so-called Lord of Chaos. When the adrenaline fades, Ryder realizes he's been wounded, badly. Moments later, Detective Timmins arrives with Shell and Morgan. Seeing Morgan reminds Ryder of a bitter truth: in every lifetime where he fought for her, he has always died in the end. This time appears no different. As he fades, Ryder glimpses Souch, chaos itself, offering a final farewell. Then, miraculously, Ryder regains consciousness. Only to see himself being eulogized at his own funeral. Officially, he no longer exists, a ghost in the eyes of the world. Before continuing his eternal battle against chaos, he takes one last look at Morgan. She turns, meets his gaze, and smiles.